Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Remember, subscribers, the vibe, your boys on the road to 20K. Humbly. Yo, we got the most feared women in U.S. prison, bro. I'm gonna keep it a bean, and I don't mean this for this to sound misogynistic in any sense, because I really don't have anything against women, but I can't say I've ever feared a woman a day in my life, bro. Anytime I've always heard a woman serving life in prison, I've always thought like, this woman did something real evil. You know what I mean? You had to have done something real evil to be known or recognized as the most feared woman in U.S. prison. Come on, man, I gotta react to this shit, man. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit the like and subscribe button for more content, because your boy is unlimited. Let me stop. We're gonna get right into it, man. The most feared woman in prison in the U.S.
The city of Las Cruces, New Mexico. Take your seat in the 3rd Judicial District Court as we tune in for the sentencing of 34-year-old Crystal Cardinus. This dangerous woman was convicted of murdering her ex-boyfriend, 34-year-old Mario Cabral, and his girlfriend, 32-year-old Vanessa Rodriguez Mora, during the night of March 25th, 2018, after a hitman plot went awry. She was convicted on 4 charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and 1 count of criminal solicitation. In what has been termed the Garfield killings, 4 years have passed since a teenage girl woke up and discovered the bodies of her mother and her mother's boyfriend at their home. According to investigating officers as well as prosecutors,
I ain't gonna front. That shit is trash to expose a child to that level of trauma, son. But first count, 2 counts of first-degree murder, like you, and conspiracy to commit murder, obviously. So you woke up and you game planned how you were gonna execute these 2 people, and you actually went through with it. Yikes.
And her then boyfriend, 36-year-old Luis Flores, first sought the services of a hitman in having Cardinus's former boyfriend and the father of her daughter killed after a bitter legal battle for custody. When their effort to hire a hitman failed, authorities cited that Cardinus and Flores took matters into their own hands and performed the assassin's work on their own, shooting and murdering Mario Cabral as well as his girlfriend, 32-year-old Vanessa Rodriguez Mora, on that fateful night. Throughout the gruesome incident, Mora Rodriguez's daughter hid in another room. Police said that Mora Rodriguez's daughter discovered Cabral and her mother the morning after the killing. On discovering the grim scene the next morning, Rodriguez Mora's own daughter immediately ran across the street to a neighbor's house where she called the police. The teenager testified during the trial that she heard the gunshots the night before, but hid in bed and fell back to sleep, consoling herself that she was just having a bad dream. But her nightmare was fully real and just starting as she saw her mother and Cabral together, lying in a pool of their own blood. This is what the poor girl had to say about it during the trial.
My mom was in the couch, just bleeding from her nose. And then I was like, Mom, wake up, and she didn't wake up.
The prosecutors representing the state and a defense lawyer representing Cardinus battled it out fiercely. The district attorney outlined the case he and his fellow prosecutor had built over the last 5 days. He started by outlining the night and early morning of March 25th, 2018, as testified to by Mora Rodriguez's daughter. The daughter told the jury that she was watching television with her mom and Cabral before going to bed. She woke up a few hours later to the sound of gunshots and said she hid under a blanket for a while before she fell back asleep, believing the whole thing was a nightmare. The prosecutor
You gotta
said
think how scary that shit is, bro. Especially as a youth. That kind of trauma, that's the trauma that stays with you for the rest of your life. And I think anybody found guilty deserves to serve life in jail, like, at the end of the day. Because, I mean, you gonna kill a man and a girl. So I'm guessing you was probably messing around with the dude. You found out he was cheating on you. So you take him out and his partner. But it's like, the domino effect is this woman was a mother, bro.
And other witness testimony filled in the rest of the story. According to him, Cardinus and Flores performed surveillance on Cabral's house, waiting for the couple to go to sleep before the attack just after midnight. He said Flores broke into the house, shot Cabral once, shot Mora Rodriguez 3 times, then turned back to Cabral. The prosecutor then stated that Flores shot Cabral in the groin area 6 times. This was meticulously planned, he said. According to authorities, Cardinus had first attempted to hire a man named Edward Alonzo to kill Cabral. The would-be killer said he agreed to a $10,000 hit but was only paid $3,000 by the defendant. Then when Alonzo was arrested on an unrelated charge, he offered his knowledge of the scheme in an attempt to negotiate a deal. Alonzo was brought to testify but insisted his face be hidden. Let's listen to what he said.
Yo, hold it down with this whole negotiating, bro. You a hired hitman. You got bamboozled. You thought you were making 10K. You got 3K. And now you're trying to plead out a deal to get a second chance in life. Those victims are just as dead. Regardless of what information you give to the courts to help your case to bury the woman really responsible for hiring you, those people are just as dead, bro. I'm not negotiating with this man. He got nothing. He got nothing. All you could do is give us the full story. So what, we gonna shave off 25 years? Hell no. You gotta die in jail with her.
If I wasn't able to finish the job, or for some reason it wasn't able to get done when it was going to get done.
As for a motive, prosecutors say Cardinus wanted the house Cabral built after he came into a large sum of money from a legal settlement right around the time they first met. After the two split up, the deceased father transferred the house into their daughter's name. If he died, prosecutors argued, Cardinus, who was in danger of losing her own house around the time of the killing due to financial troubles, would be allowed to stay in Cabral's home and raise their daughter. Cardinus's lawyer, Todd Holmes, disagreed. He argued the couple were likely killed in a drug cartel hit. He also happened to point out a lack of physical evidence, such as DNA or fingerprints, that would place Flores or Cardinus in the trailer during the shooting. Furthermore, he raised questions about the reliability of one of the state's key witnesses, the man who said Cardinus paid him to kill her ex-boyfriend. The defendant also maintained her innocence during the entire trial.
I was shocked. I was just shocked. I was shocked. I didn't believe it.
How was your mood?
Excuse me?
How was your mood about learning that information?
I started crying.
The back and forth continued. The prosecutor spent some time refuting the theory that Cardinus' lawyer suggested that Cabral and Mora Rodriguez were killed by a drug cartel. Referring to the testimony that would have supported the cartel theory, the prosecutor said the following, "Have you heard a single word of that? Nothing shows that because it's made up. It's there to confuse you."
We find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder.
3 hours after the closing arguments from both sides, the jury returned with their decision. Crystal Cardinus was found guilty of 1 count of murder in the first degree, 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and 1 count of criminal solicitation. A 4th charge of second-degree murder was rejected by the jury. 3rd Judicial District Court Judge Conrad Perea sentenced Cardinus to a collective 54 years in prison. The charge of capital murder carries a sentence of life in prison, but Cardinus becomes eligible for a parole hearing after serving several decades.
Several decades, like, bro, I don't know what's dumber, son. Someone that's willing to pay someone to catch a body, or the person that's willing to take money for catching the body. Like, it's just never worth it. And it speaks volumes to show, like, what people are capable of. Like, I say it all the time, humbly, in some of my videos, bro, but when you live a long life, and it's not to say that I've lived forever, I'm not that old, bro, but the longer you live, the more you can't help but see certain shit about the human race. Half the human population will die by the hands of someone they've never met. Never met. That's how unfair all this shit is. And I might be speaking it on to myself. Hey, man, I would love to die in my sleep, you know what I mean? But if only life was that easy, right? You know, so blame it on the cartel. This man is in the crib with his wife, and someone just barges in and starts shooting. Oh, man, son, like, I don't want to hear no negotiations. Whoever's responsible, nah, you getting the book thrown at you, bro. Ain't no second chances. That's wild.
This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
Bro, this
Mackenzie Shilla
girl's like
is the
15.
next dangerous woman on our list, and she has been dubbed Hell on Wheels. She got this nickname after intentionally crashing her car at 100 miles per hour into a building, killing her boyfriend and his friend. She was convicted on 12 charges, including 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, 1 count of drug possession, and 1 count of possessing criminal tools. Do not let her innocent eyes fool you. The woman you are looking at has nothing but hate in her heart. Officers, as well as the prosecution, stated that the crash happened around 5:30 in the morning of July July 31st, 2022, when Shilla sped up her Toyota Camry
Damn, that was
without
last year.
breaking into the Plidco building, a large brick building at the intersection of Progress and Alameda Drives in the Cleveland suburb of Strongsville. When officers arrived at the scene, about 45 minutes later, they found the car with severe damage and full airbag deployments. 3 bodies were in the car, namely Mackenzie Shilla, her 20-year-old boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his 19-year-old friend, Davian Flanagan. The police said at the time that they were unconscious, not breathing, and trapped in the vehicle. Shilla was taken to a local hospital where she regained consciousness, but Russo and Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene. It was also cited that all 3 had been smoking marijuana, and police recovered magic mushrooms from the car. Prosecutors argued that Shilla had quite a toxic relationship with Russo and had threatened him multiple times prior to the fatal incident.
I'm almost trying to figure out, how did she get charged with? Wouldn't it be like vehicular manslaughter, since she was the driver? Damn, to hit her with a murder charge. Like, girl was in the car too, so she could have killed herself. I'm trying to figure out, why were you driving 120 miles an hour at 5:30 in the morning and then crashed into a building that didn't even look like it was in the way of the road? You know what I mean? Like, the building didn't even look like it was in the way of the street. Like, it kind of like you drove off the road and purposely crashed into a building.
2 weeks before the crash, she allegedly threatened to crash her vehicle when she was driving with Russo because she was angry over a dispute they had. Russo immediately dialed his mother's phone and asked to be picked up, and a friend ended up retrieving him. In a phone call with Russo, the friend allegedly overheard Shilla say, "I will crash this car right now." Before the sentencing, the prosecution presented a couple of TikTok videos showing Shilla at a concert and celebrating Halloween after the crash. Shrilla's mother told the judge that those outings were the only time she did something for herself, saying her daughter had been holed up in her room crying next to a shrine she had made of Dominic Russo for months. Cuyahoga County Common Pleas. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo had quite a lot to say before handing down the verdict. She delivered a red-hot description.
I ain't gonna lie, when the judge got a lot to say, they're not feeling you. They're not feeling you at all.
Case before she read out the verdict, saying Shilla had a mission she executed with precision that fateful day, and the mission was death.
She had a mission, and she executed it with precision. The mission was death. Mackenzie alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle to 90 to 100 miles per hour. She alone decided what was to be.
Shilla broke down in tears as Judge Russo kept talking.
Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
Like, you gotta blame this on just being a dumb youth. You're actually in the car with them. So if the plan is to kill your boyfriend and his friend for whatever reason, because I personally don't know what the reason is, maybe they'll get to it in the video, you're in the car too. So you don't think you're gonna die with them? There's no way that's the master plan. Like, I'm so confused by this. Why?
This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
She also made specific comments about the crash video that was put forward as evidence.
This is the type of evidence you can never unsee. You can never forget the visual or audio of this exhibit. It is chilling and tragic. As you review that exhibit, you know that you are watching the oncoming deaths of 2 people, and there is nothing that will stop it.
Judge Russo further stated Shilla made a calculated decision that morning to drive on an obscure route that she did not take routinely, knowing that not many people would be around.
She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels as she makes her way down the street. Mackenzie alone made the decision to drive the car, to drive an obscure route, a route she visited a few days before, and a route not routinely taken by her.
Flanagan's mother, Jamie Flanagan, spoke after the verdict. There's not a day that goes by that we don't miss our son, and justice was served for him today. But honestly, there are no winners here. There's no winners here today. The mother of Dominic Russo, Christine Russo, gave a heartfelt message to the court, saying that not a day goes by when she doesn't think about her son.
We all know what happened in that car that day. What we don't know is why. I wish I could change this every day.
Yeah, I don't know why neither.
3 children in that crash. Not a minute goes by each day that I don't think about my son, as well as Davian. My heart is forever broken.
Shilla, who did not give evidence, read out a statement in court before her sentence was announced. "The families of Dominic and Davian, I'm so deeply sorry," she said. "I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate," she said. "I wish I could take all your pain away. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. I love you all so much." Mackenzie Shilla was sentenced to 2 concurrent 15-year-to-life sentences for the murder charges in the deaths of her boyfriend, Dominic.
Bro, she killed 2 boys and got a 30-year sentence. She deliberately drove her car into the side of a building. The only thing that's serving life is her driver's license? I'm confused. Get me off the story, bro.
Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan. She will receive credit for time served and have her driver's license suspended for life.
And it's crazy too. Y'all think that toxic shit is the thing. I see a lot of young people get into relationships where it's a toxic relationship. People are loud. No one's listening to one another. People are disrespectful. And granted, I'll be fair. They're young. You know what I mean? To lose your life at 19, it's like, well, you want to talk about a shit hand at life? 19? What do you know? And I think the boyfriend was 20 or 18. Kids to lose your life because you get behind a car with someone that you trust and they just play with your life like that, and she survives. Like, the irony of life sometimes, like, the person responsible for the crash is the one that walks away. She got the best deal out of all 3 lives, a 30-year sentence and a second chance. She looks 15. Wait, you get out at 45 with 2 bodies and these niggas don't get a second chance at life? Is tough, man. That's wicked. Hold on.
Welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin. We are seated at the Brown
Shorty got
County
her face
Courthouse
covered.
where the woman you just saw attacking her own attorney has just been convicted of the murder and dismemberment of her former boyfriend. 25-year-old Taylor Shea Busness has been charged with 1 count of homicide, 1 count of third-degree sexual abuse, and 1 count of mutilating a corpse in the February 2022 killing of former boyfriend, 24-year-old.
So it wasn't even enough to kill him. Like, she had to chop him up in pieces, bro. Women are out here moving like the mafia. Oh my God.
Shad Therian. There were 2 phases to Taylor's trial. The trial's first phase dealt with the jury finding her guilty of killing, dismembering, and sexually assaulting Shad Therian. The second phase dealt with her mental state, and the jury rejected the defense's claim that Taylor was suffering from a mental disease or defect at the time of the crime. It was back in February of 2022 when the mother of the victim, Shad Therian, found her son's head in a bucket in the basement of her Stony Brook Lane house. Nothing could have prepared her for what she encountered in the early morning hours of that fateful day. Inside a green bucket covered with a shower towel at her home in Green Bay, Wisconsin, was the severed head of her 24-year-old son. Therian's lifeless body and carved-out organs were later found by law enforcement in her basement. The bone-chilling nature of the murder was on full display in court.
Ain't no
this
way
week.
mama went to go check on her son and found his head in a green bucket, bro. Wow.
As Taylor went on trial charged with his murder. Taylor and her victim had known each other since middle school and had been involved in a sexual relationship, she told law enforcement. On the fateful day of Therian's death, they had been consuming prescription drugs and methamphetamines. According to a criminal complaint filed by the prosecutors, Taylor picked up the victim around 9:30 p.m. on the 21st of February 2022. A friend of the couple joined them before they headed to an apartment where the 3 smoked marijuana. Taylor told police that she and Therian also smoked methamphetamine and injected trazodone. Then she eventually returned to his mother's home and spent the day there while his mother was away. Therian reportedly laid face down in bed before Taylor repeatedly choked him, despite the fact that he was coughing blood and turned purple. The victim's
Bro,
mother
ain't no way you just... Come on, dog. Come on. Ain't no way you let your girlfriend choke you out, bro. Ain't no way that's how he really went out. You got choked to death by your girl? This shit is pissing me off, son. This shit pissing me
informed
off.
the court that she was woken up by a knock on her front door around 2:30 a.m. She headed down to the basement to check whether Therian was there, and after not finding him, she went back upstairs and found the bucket with part of her son's remains inside. The mother's boyfriend, Steve Hendricks, then called 911. Body cam video of the officers responding to the scene shows them searching the basement of the home and securing the crime scene after confirming that a human head was inside the bucket. Therian's mom immediately cooperated with the officers and told investigators her son was last seen with Taylor. They quickly tracked her down at an Eastman Avenue apartment complex where her arrest was captured on police body cam and shown to the jury. "Hi, Taylor, how's it going?" Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department, the officer was heard saying. "Taylor, we have a warrant for your arrest. Put your hands behind your back. You got blood on your hands here." Now, this was not Taylor's first rodeo with the authorities. She had been previously convicted of unrelated fleeing, eluding, and obstructing a police officer charges. She was sentenced to 3 months in jail in January 2022 for these charges. She was seen numerous times smirking as gruesome details about the murder were mentioned. One time during the proceedings, she attacked her own lawyer before a deputy wrestled her to the courtroom floor. Let's take a look at the clip.
It's the fact that out here, even the worst criminals are like entitled to a lawyer. That will forever be the most cringiest thing about the U.S. Like, that shit just, when you know someone really did it, or you know someone's really a monster, and we got to waste our tax dollars to go through this procedure when this person know that they did it. But my thing is, y'all must know something about the afterlife that I don't know about, bro. Because the way y'all just be out here committing these crimes, like there's a second chance at life after life in prison, y'all know something that the rest of us don't know. Because what was the master plan here? To kill him, dismember him, and then what? You think you're going to get a second chance at another relationship? Or did you think you were going to get a second chance at love?
As mentioned before, the second phase of the trial deals with her mental state. Taylor entered
Nobody
a
give
plea
a
of
damn
not
about her
guilty
mental
by
state.
reason of
Give her the
insanity
chair.
entered by her former attorney. This was what forensic psychologist Dr. Diane Litton had to say about her.
My opinion is that she qualifies for the not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. My opinions are that she was not responsible because of a mental disease.
Yo,
Last
throw this
year,
woman up out of
a
here.
physician appointed by the court found that she was able to stand trial. Her attorney said at that time that Taylor had been diagnosed as bipolar in the past.
Nobody
and that she
cares.
had been getting mental health treatment since she was in the 7th
You know how many
grade.
bipolar people I know that's not out here dismembering the heads of their partners? Yeah.
However, Brown County Circuit Court Judge Thomas Walsh ruled in March that Taylor was competent to stand trial. On the day of the sentencing, the jury took just 30 minutes to convict her on all counts of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault in Therian's death. She was sentenced to life in prison as the death penalty is not legal in Wisconsin. While the verdict was read, she remained as emotionless as any stone-cold killer would.
Wow. Unbelievable.
First of the jury, Ms. Murphy, is that your verdict? Mr. Aldridge, is that your verdict? Ms. Foster, is that your verdict? Yes. And is that your verdict, ma'am?
We head on over to Shelby County Courthouse in Memphis, Tennessee,
I
where
can't front,
19-year-old
son.
Shelby Isaac was accused of first-degree murder in the death of Eddie Tate and his girlfriend Edwina Thomas, who was 8 weeks pregnant at the time. She was convicted of the lesser charges of second-degree murder of Tate, reckless homicide of Thomas, and criminally negligent homicide of the unborn baby. Eddie Tate and his pregnant girlfriend Edwina Thomas were shot on January 22nd, 2016, in the 2100 block of Westchester Circle. And would you guess the reason why? Hair weaves. Shelby Isaac bought $250 worth of hair extensions from Tate. She was apparently disgruntled with the purchase and decided to call him back to set up another meeting under the guise of buying more to meet up with Tate. But what she really wanted to do was to get her money back. That was what led to the very unfortunate chain of events that befell the victims. She lured that man to his death. Assistant District Attorney Glenn Beatty told the jury. The district attorney also cited that after Tate pulled up to the apartments with his pregnant girlfriend, Shelby Isaac opened fire on the car. A witness, Gary Dotson, said he later saw her with a wad of cash and blood on her clothes. The DA told the jury the case was about Tate, who was someone's son, cousin, and father, and Edwina Thomas, who was someone's sister, daughter, and an unborn baby's mother. The DA said, "It's about that unborn baby. It's about how Isaac took their lives." Defense attorney Lauren Fuchs argued the trial is about who is responsible and that there was no physical evidence tying Isaac to the crime. The only person placing her at the scene was her co-defendant, Victoria Victoria Shea, Fuchs said. Shelby Isaac lived at the Sycamore Lake Apartments, but no neighbors identified her as being at the crime scene. Shea testified that before the shooting, she drove Shelby Isaac to the apartments and saw her get out of a car and approach Tate's vehicle. Shea said she then saw Shelby Isaac with a black gun and fled when she heard the first gunshot. She said she later returned to pick up Shelby and that she confessed to her.
Parts of this statement directly contradicted some of the stuff he said the day of the shooting, right? You lied. Told police you lied.
Her defense lawyer pointed to the numerous inconsistencies in Shea's previous testimony at a preliminary hearing, and how Shea said she lied under oath then. Shea said she had also told police for several hours that she didn't know what happened. Fuchs asked, "Can you believe her? After all the inconsistencies that she has admitted to, lying to her mother, lying to the police, lying to judges, lying to attorneys, lying to friends, can you believe her?" Fuchs stated that Shelby Isaac had no past criminal record. A key component of the state's evidence was a fingerprint belonging to Shelby Isaac found on a receipt inside Tate's car. Her lawyers argued the fingerprint got there when she was previously in Tate's car buying weaves. Now it was time for the verdict.
Has the jury arrived at a verdict in this case? All 4 counts? Were they unanimous?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I want to condemn this one. I don't really know, son. But to catch a triple homicide over a weave and wanting $250 back. Wow.
When Judge James Lammy started reading the verdict, Shelby Isaac put her head down. As he continued to read verdicts on the other counts, Isaac fainted and collapsed on the ground for at least 5 minutes as deputies tried to revive her. They finally got her up as she cried out, "Mommy," and had to be taken away from the courtroom. Her family erupted in cries as she was taken out of the court. Some jurors also began to cry.
The jury found the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count 1. Signed by the full person of the jury. Ms. Murphy, is that your verdict?
The worst news you want to hear as a human being, bro. To be spoken to by a judge like that.
In the midst of all the chaos, the judge carried on with the sentencing like nothing happened.
I don't know, bro. This one's a tough one. I don't like the evidence that was presented. At least in this video, like a thumbprint on a receipt.
The judge sentenced 20-year-old Shelby Isaac to 30 years in a state penitentiary and won't be eligible for release until the year 2040, when she'll be 42 years old.
Oh, son. I need you guys to start noticing these patterns. 30 years for potential triple homicide. If this is a man, you're getting 2 consecutive life sentences. These penalties against women in this country. She's eligible for release in 2040, bro. Anybody capable of killing 3 people because they didn't like their hair product doesn't deserve a second chance. Now, granted, I can't tell if she's innocent or guilty based off the little information we got, but still, 30 years? Man, I'd be doing backflips in that courthouse if I know I'm guilty. I got off.
For our final stop, we are headed
She
to the
did it.
Los Angeles County Superior Court
She
for the
did it.
sentencing of the cruel 33-year-old Heather Maxine Barron and her boyfriend, 37-year-old Kareem Leyva. Both were charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture in the death of her 10-year-old son, Anthony
kid?
Avalos. It's one thing to murder just anybody, but to torture and murder the very person you gave birth to is next level. 10-year-old Anthony Avalos was beaten and tortured to death after having suffered years of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse from his mother and her boyfriend. He was
Sexual
tortured and killed after being beaten and suffering internal bleeding. On discovery of the body, it showed signs of serious physical abuse and malnutrition. The deputy director of the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, Brandon Nichols, cited that Avalos had recently mentioned to his mother that he liked boys and girls. A couple of Avalos's relatives revealed to officers that Barron and Leyva had exhibited repeated evidence of their intense homophobia. His mother had even called him a homophobic homophobic slur in front of relatives, and her boyfriend Leva admitted that he did not feel comfortable being in close proximity to homosexuals. During the boy's autopsy, his body showed obvious signs of repeated and sustained abuse. Bruises and burns were all over his body, and he was extremely malnourished and dehydrated. According to court testimony, Avalos's aunt divulged to her therapist that Avalos's mother was beating, starving, and locking him for
Don't
hours
cry now,
in a
bitch.
room without any access
Fuck
to the
outta here.
bathroom. He was just 6 years old at the time. Authorities from the Department of Child and Family Services responded to about 13 complaints of abuse from teachers, relatives, police, and counselors regarding Avalos
13.
between February 2013.
13 reports of abuse by teachers and other people that have seen things, and this kid still dies, bro. I'm telling you, some of us just get the shit hand at life, because as a youth, you don't know what you don't know. You know, you just think, yo, this is mom, this is dad, this is normal life. You don't realize that there's ways to get help, there's ways to escape. Because I think as children, we naturally feel safe with our parents. I think that's a natural mammal reaction. You see deers comfortable with other deers. You see lions comfortable with other lions. A kid who's being malnourished and abused still feels safer with their parents compared to even a stranger because of the familiar. I always butcher this word. Familiarity. There we go, Gabos. You know, and it's like, damn, man, to do that to a 6-year-old kid, bro.
And April 2016, including sexual abuse by a grandparent when he was just 4 years old. But during this timeline, the department only followed up 8 times, missing numerous warnings of life-threatening abuse and repeatedly failing to intervene. Over the last few days of his life, Avalos was tortured nonstop. He was flogged brutally all over his body, dangled upside down and dropped on his head, sprayed with hot sauce in his eyes, nose, and mouth, and forced to kneel on rice for several hours.
Why?
Such a brutal experience for a 10-year-old. One of the medics who transported Anthony Avalos to the hospital said his case is always at the forefront of her mind during pediatric calls, even years later. Anthony was taken to the hospital unresponsive in cardiac arrest and with a traumatic brain injury. Unfortunately, he died the next day. The court found Kareem Leva as the perpetrator of the lethal abuse, while his girlfriend and the mother of the victim, Heather Barron, aided and abetted him. The judge rejected the couple's defense that Anthony's injuries were self-inflicted and said they showed intent to kill in their delay in calling 911 for the boy. Barron's attorney also alleged that she didn't have the power to prevent this because of her own experience with abuse, an argument that was also swiftly dismissed by the judge. It was an emotional sentencing hearing as family members offered tearful victim impact statements. Anthony's cousin began reading a statement to the judge, and it was a very tear-filled statement.
The life that Kareem and Heather took away from him. This isn't what Anthony deserved. All Anthony ever did was love and care for Heather and his siblings. And in a split second, Anthony was stabbed in the back. Being here, being in court, reading words that are in memory of Anthony is something I never wanted to do.
This next clip is a tearjerker as 8-year-old Matthew Barron, a cousin of the victim, gives his impact statement about how he misses his cousin and how he was always full of life and love.
Dear Judge, my name is Matthew Barron. I am 8 years old and I miss my cousin Anthony. I was a baby when I last saw him. I wish I could remember all our time together, but all I have is pictures and stories that my family tells me. Anthony was an amazing family, full of life and love. He always played with me.
On March 7th, the judge found Heather Barron and her boyfriend guilty of first-degree murder and torture in a non-jury trial after the two waived their right to have the case heard by a jury.
You see the look by the attorney?
On March 7th, the judge found
That's the look you give, like, yo, you're fucked. Look at the look.
And her boyfriend guilty of first-degree murder and torture in a non-jury trial after the two waived their right to have the case heard by a jury. In a ruling that stretched over more than 50 pages, the judge said, while rendering his verdict, "It is clear to this court beyond a reasonable doubt that each defendant targeted Anthony as a scapegoat for extreme cruelty."
Each defendant is ordered to serve life without the possibility of parole.
Fried.
In count 2, the court imposes a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years.
Both Barron and Leva were sentenced to life in prison.
Damn,
without the
what happened to the Karen in prison there? This thumbnail is wild, but like, first of all, that last woman, I don't know who's putting a child in her to begin with. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's so unfortunate, right? Because my friend Stan always says this, like, yo, you really don't pick your parents. You know, like some of us are born in healthy homes, some of us are born under these kind of conditions, and for a child to have, you know, to go through that in just 10 years of living, and then, you know, to lose your life by the people that are here to protect you. There's so many else. things in the world that could kill you. You're not exactly expecting your parents to be your executioner, bro. And life isn't fair. You know, at least these people were dealt with like life in prison and shit like that. But it's so unfortunate when you see some of these wild stories. It's like, yo, one guy is getting beheaded and his head is thrown in a bucket. You got a mom out here starving her kid because they're allergic to some sort of hope. There's no excuse for anything. Any of these behaviors, there's just no excuse for it, bro. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is the most feared women in U.S. prison, son. Keep them there for good. I'm gonna holler at you guys next video. My bad.